to The Truth Would Not Be Silenced, the show that allows people to be seen, to be heard, and to be human. I'm your host, Melissa Woodfork White. In today's episode, we will talk about overcoming and conquering life's obstacles with Shayla Powell. Sharing our stories allows us to be seen, to be heard, and to be human. There will be a special surprise at the end of the show. Be sure to listen all the way through for the details. Our special guest today is none other than Shayla Powell. She is the founder and executive director of Blueprint Agency, a 501c3 charitable organization that is dedicated to empowering women from within the community. She is passionate about the vision of her organization, imprinting the hearts of women. Shayla's organization empowers women to walk in complete freedom from things that hold them captive. She is a survivor. Shayla holds a Bachelor of Science in Business Management. She is a loving wife and mother of 2 adult children. Shayla is going to share with us about overcoming and conquering life's obstacles. Hi, Shayla. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Melissa. Thank you so much for the invitation, and thank you for the powerful introduction that you gave in regards to who I am and what I do. Thank you.
You are very welcome, and we are blessed to have you on our show. So let's go ahead and jump right in. I want you to share with us today, how are you a survivor? Can you tell us your story?
Absolutely. I was molested at the age of 5 until about 15 years old by my mother's brother. From that point, after that, I dealt with sexual assault from the age of 19 to 25 and trying to sift through what that looked like for me. And so I got married at the age of 19 as well. And I didn't understand what was going on with me. I thought that I was damaged goods, and I thought I wasn't capable of having a relationship. And I truly believe that people on the outside of me saw something written across my forehead that said damaged goods. And so I really had to work through, with the Lord's help, healing and getting delivered from the lies of Satan and what he convinced me that I was. So that is pretty much in a sum of how I became a survivor, because I'm no longer a victim now. I am victorious, walking with the Lord, and I'm able to tell people that although you went through this, you can be an overcomer.
Yes. And so you shared some really hard truths with us in your story about being a survivor and how you are no longer a victim. Did you know at the time when all of this was happening to you? Because just sharing a little bit here, when we were growing up, you know how in school they told us about stranger danger. Mm-hmm. And you know, if someone touches you here, someone does here, immediately tell somebody. So at that time, were you aware as a young child of what was going on with you?
So I wasn't, because keep in mind, I was 5. Okay. As the older I got, I started realizing this wasn't normal, what he was doing to me. But then it was like, he knew what he was doing, but he would also compensate me for what he was doing. He would buy me things. He would do things for me that he wouldn't do to any of the other nieces or nephews. So I'm like, okay, well, he says he loves me and to keep it a secret. But then he threatened me that if I tell my parents, that he would kill my parents. So as a little kid, you are afraid, you're intimidated, that you better not say anything or else your parents are going to be taken away. And that's what I thought.
And you know what? You touched on a very good point right there, is that when they teach us at a young age, you know, kindergarten and up, about stranger danger, someone does that, they don't tell us that if they threaten us or say that they're going to kill your parents, then this is what we should do. They never go that far, just the fact of that we need to tell somebody. But sometimes, like you just shared, most children your age that this happens to, they're not able to share that because they've been threatened. And, you know, when someone says, I'm going to kill your parents, as a child, that is devastating. It's very traumatic.
Yes.
And so with that being said, that leads me to the next question with you sharing your story with our audience today, is that when you became older, you said that you were sexually assaulted. Can you
Yes.
tell us about those times in which you were sexually assaulted? Because you said that you were sexually assaulted repeatedly. And the
Yes.
reason why I'm asking you to get really intimate with us right now, Shayla, is for the simple fact that we see a lot of propaganda on the news and in the media and so forth, talking about, oh, she shouldn't have been wearing this, or oh, she had too much to drink, or oh, she did this or she did that. When the bottom line is no is no. If I'm not coherent enough to agree, it is assault and so
Absolutely.
forth. So can you share with us about your specific experiences to help us on today when it comes down to those who have experienced what you have experienced, the sexual assault?
Absolutely. One occasion I can say is that my ex-husband at the time, he was away, and it was just my children and I. And I was just, we lived in an apartment building. I had groceries. I had a 2-year-old and a 2-month-old. And I'm trying to carry groceries, a diaper bag. I really just thought that this guy was just being nice to me because I've seen him in and out of the building. He walked me upstairs. He said he would help me. And that's where the attack took place. And I'm just like, hey, wait a minute, and my kids were there. And he says, well, if you don't stop fighting, I'm going to hurt your kids. So I had to give in to that because I didn't want my children to be hurt. Another time, just going on a date with someone and just thinking like we're going out on a date, we're just having a good time. You give me a hug, and then next thing we know, it's him forcing himself on me. Although that's not what I was looking for, I was not dressed inappropriately, but it's almost like something is inviting them to that type of behavior. So
Wow.
for years, I really dealt with battling like, what is it that I'm doing that's attracting these type of men to me? And so that's why I still believe the lie of the enemy that I was damaged goods. And so it was something that must have caused this behavior. What in it is in me did I do to warrant this type of behavior?
Wow. So let me ask you this, Shayla. Did you report these incidents?
Nope,
Can you
did not.
tell us why you didn't report these incidents?
Afraid, fear, um, fear of what my husband would say at the time because he was away, um, fear of what the building would say because I didn't know anybody in the building. He was someone else's boyfriend, of what people would think of me in particular. So I never said anything.
And you know what? Statistics today tells us that, the number is pretty high about the unreported incidents that go unreported due to fear.
Yes.
Fear of thinking that you did something wrong when you did absolutely nothing wrong. Mm-hmm. Fear of thinking, what will other people think about you? Will they believe you? Will they, and so forth. And so, we hear about this all the time, but to have you here today actually sharing what it is like and why you didn't do what, or why you did what you did and why you didn't do what you didn't do. And so mm-hmm. with that being said, I've heard stories where mother with young children have been attacked, mm-hmm. and out of fear, they don't say anything. Mm-hmm. And then the thing about it is that, and I've heard what you just said too, about how they threaten. It's always followed with a threat. I'm going to hurt your children. And at that point, that motherly instinct kicks in. And so at that point, you're not thinking about nobody else but your kids.
Mm-hmm.
And go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, and if I can add, mm-hmm. it took me back to when I was younger because I was molested at a young age. Mm-hmm. And when I told my parents, or my mother, I should say, in 3rd grade, I'll never forget, they didn't believe me because I was about to get a whooping for eating some cookies. And in that moment, I told, hey, this is what uncle has been doing to me. And so at that time, I wasn't believed. So it took until 15, once he did that to my god sister, for it finally to come out. So in my mind, when I got that 19 and up, and when I was assaulted, I still had the same mindset as that they're not going to believe me, because if my mother didn't believe me, why should anybody else believe me?
Wow, Shayla, that is really tough and hard that's a hard thing to carry.
Yes.
And so that leads me into our next question. What is the Blueprint Agency? And how did you get from victim to survivor to the Blueprint Agency?
Absolutely.
So share with us.
So Blueprint Agency is an organization that we, excuse me, we provide the necessary tools to enable women to overcome obstacles. And we do that by offering free services to women that have experienced trauma. And any woman that comes to our door tells us that they've experienced trauma, we offer counseling services, life coaching, wellness programs, and resource and referrals.
Wow. And so when you say anyone that has experienced any type of trauma, can you give us examples of that trauma? Because that's how this organization was birthed from you.
Absolutely. Sexual assault, molestation, depression, self-image issues, um, rape, even mental health issues. I wanted to make sure that there is a place where women could feel safe and know that someone is there walking with them through it. And God gave me Blueprint Agency. He told me to do it, and I didn't know what it was.
I love the work that your organization does because one, it is birthed out of your own trauma. It is birthed out of your own experience. And you're providing services that were not provided to you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're only able to do that because of how you were able to transcend from becoming a victim to a survivor. And now you're providing the services that women need throughout those processes, throughout those traumas. And I think that it's a wonderful thing that your agency is doing. Can you share some stories about how you all have helped people?
Absolutely. We've helped a numerous amounts of women that have come in. They've been homeless. We've been able to change their whole life by offering counseling services, life coaching, the wellness component. And we've also helped to be able to place them in a home as well. So they go from living in a shelter and going to have it permanent housing. And then a support team for them we've been able to do with them as well.
That is wonderful. And so my thing to you, can you tell us more about your vision? Because I
Absolutely.
mentioned that when I introduced you, and I want our audience to know how your vision ties into your organization, which was birthed from your own trauma.
Absolutely. The vision is imprinting the hearts of women. And if Blueprint Agency can touch each woman, we know we can't fix it all. But if we can leave a thumbprint, which is our logo on there, then that means that we have at least started the process with them on healing, and they're on their way to healing. And so that has been important to me because we want to make sure that we're able to walk with women through their healing journey, because we know that there are layers of healing that have to be done when a woman experiences trauma.
You know what? I'm almost breathless right now. And so, Shayla, I have to ask you this. Why is it important to get help when you have been victimized, when you have been traumatized, whether it's sexual assault, abuse, molestation? Why is it important to get help? And I know that you kind of touched on this when you shared your story, which led us to the Blueprint Agency, but I want our audience to clearly understand why they need to get help.
Absolutely. Thank you, Melissa. It's so important to get help, to get healing, to make sure that you're not operating in dysfunction. Because if you put a mask over and everything looks good on the outside, but everything in the inside is all messed up. And so we don't want to pass that down to our children, our children's children. So it is so important to walk through that healing, talk about the trauma, and know that someone is there walking with them so they can get healed properly.
I think one of the most important things, well, you shared a lot of important things with us today, but one of the things that stand out to me the most is that you didn't have this help or support when you were coming up. And then when you did tell one of the most important people in your life, they didn't believe you. I believe that's where your agency comes into play. Mm-hmm. You know, if you do that, or even if you don't do that, the Blueprint Agency is here to help you, because they will believe you. They will give you what you need, or get you to what it is that you need, so that you can heal, and so that you can go from victim to survivor to conqueror to overcomer.
Yes.
And I think that that is awesome.
Thank you.
Shayla, I want you to share with us now. One last question before we go into sharing.
Sure.
How does you sharing your story today and your agency, the Blueprint, with us help others? Tell us about the current work that you're doing and the future work that you have in store.
So the current work that I do is really reaching out, advocating on who Blueprint is, telling people what I experienced. It's nothing like being able to relate to a real life story, to know that, you know what, she just doesn't have a degree, but hey, she's walked through this and I see her as an overcomer. The next phase is that for Blueprint Agency, is that I would love to purchase some land and open up houses, little tiny houses for women, to have them do transitional housing there where they know that it's safe. There's counseling on site. There's wellness programs on site, like coaching, and then as what resources and referrals that will be on site.
Yes. And so you said something about you didn't have a degree in counseling or psychology, and that yours is based, you don't have to have a degree when you have experience.
Yes.
And so I do want to add, though, for our audience, is that her agency does have licensed counselors to support. It's her vision. She founded it. She's the executive director, and it's her experience that this agency was birthed out of. But she does have qualified licensed counselors to help you through the process. Thank you so much, Shayla. Go ahead and tell our listeners and our viewers how they can get in touch with you and your agencies and any services that they may need.
Absolutely. You can find us on blueprintagency.org. Our phone number is 815-782-2322. Again, our phone number is 815-782-2322. You can find us on Facebook, blueprintagency.org, as well as Instagram, Blueprint Agency NFP. N is in Nancy, F is in Frank, P is in Peter. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Shayla. And once again, if you all are in any need of any service, trauma, rape, molestation, anything that you need help to get, I strongly urge you and encourage you to reach out to Shayla Powell and the Blueprint Agency. Thank you, Shayla, for being with us on today and for sharing your story and your organization with us.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Next week, we'll continue to discuss and have conversations about real experiences, stories that need to be shared, seen, and heard that makes us human. The truth will not be silenced, to be seen, to be heard, to be human. The surprise. If you like and leave a positive comment about this show, you will get a shout out. This includes business, product, service, organizations, and events. Following the link in the show notes, lets Buzzsprout know we sent you and help support our show. Buzzsprout is the best way to launch a professional podcast. Want to ask a question, be a guest, or subscribe to this podcast, The Truth Will Not Be Silenced? Click on the show link. Thank you for joining us today.